They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now, today we will look at our final figure in the Crisis on Infinite Earths wave. This will be the Spectre. Now, this is actually a character that I was hoping McFarlane would eventually make, and now we do have the figure in hand. Now, we have previously looked at the Superman from Earth 2, Kid Flash, Wally West, and also Psycho Pirate. And this means also that we will eventually take a look at the Monitor. Now, he does look pretty divine in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. Now, first up, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse staff. Now, of course, these are not always needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with his data file card on the front. You have an image there from the comics. Really interesting. Now, the Spectre actually goes way back into the lore of DC Comics. I actually think he is a member of the Justice Society, which is the oldest superhero group in DC. But he has remained relevant throughout time. He was a big part of the Infinite Crisis. So, very interesting character. I'm very happy to now be able to add him to our DC Multiverse collection. On the back, you do have some information. Mr. Corrigan. Pretty cool. We'll add this to the collection. Now, as far as accessories, he does not come with any that are specifically for him. He does come with the head to the Monitor. Really nice head sculpt. Really large head. Has a lot of cool detail. Sort of braids in the hair. And they did actually sculpt in some emotion. So we'll hold on to that. And then also you get the cape, which is actually really nice, has some cool texture work. And when you move up to the shoulder guard and neck apparatus, has some really nice detail. But we'll take a look at that in the future. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. Now, first impressions, as a Spectre figure, it is hitting all of the points. I think there's only one big thing that I did not enjoy about this figure, but for the most part, McFarlane did a great job. Now, we do know that this is a reuse of the Martian Manhunter buck, and it actually does work well, giving the figure an added texture feel to his skin. And we'll get into some of the other details as we move along. But for the most part, this is a very good representation of the Spectre. Now, once again, he goes way back in the comics. He has a really nice imagery that goes along with him, which is like a spooky spectral field. He is, of course, DC's version of the spirit of vengeance, where people do wrongs and he comes after them to give them some ultimate justice, which is one of the reasons I am attracted to this character. So, right off the bat, I do see some things that I really like. And like I said before, there is a couple of things I don't like, but let's take a closer look. Now, looking at the head sculpt, I love the way they did the darkness around the eyes. That way, That little touch adding to the hood that flows over the head really gives him that shadowy feel, which really works with this character. But all in all, very simple head sculpt, and that actually works. Now you can actually remove the head if you want to. Very simple, plain head sculpt, as I said. Not much to it, but it's very interesting to see what it looks like underneath the hood. Now, a big part of this means that his articulation is really restricted. And although it is easy to make him look down, you're going to have a little bit of a problem making him look up. He can actually do it, but the hood pushes his head back down. You still get a really nice right to left, but it is very hard to tilt his head and to keep it in that position, but you can get a little bit out of it. Really nice. Now, all around the hood, you do have very nice detail with wrinkles and folds, and even some details that I would not expect from McFarlane, so they did a really good job. Let's take a look at the waist articulation. You have side to side, tilt-a-whirl, lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel. You could twist them, get him in some cool poses, slight forward crunch, and he can lean back as well. Take a look at the shoulder. You got that socket and shoulder bushing joint, which gives you a lot of free range and movement. You got up and down, front to back, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. They do give you the full range, although they do not look the nicest. They have a little bit of choppiness to them, but it's fine. Now going down from the shoulder into the hand, you got that nice sort of skin texture, which is kind of unassuming because you don't really see it at first. But if you get a closer look, you could feel that texture. Now he does have a fist on the left hand. You can articulate it fully. And on the other side, he has an open hand. Not sure what he's going to grip, but you, you have the ability for him to grab onto something. Get him in a T pose pretty nicely. Arms above the head, although they are restricted a little bit by the cape. Let's go down. Love the way they did the trunks. Some really nice texture there and sculpt work showing the wrinkles and folds of the material. Pretty sweet. Now he does have really nice thigh swivel, a lot of movement and range there, and this is without heating him up. And that does mean that you can move the foot from side to side without having a thigh cut. And kick up pretty high. Kick back as well. Now, of course, the trunks are made of rubber, so they get out of the way. And when you put them back to his original position, the trunks go back to their original form. Really nice. You got that McFarlane hip swivel, double jointed knees, passable. Straighten them up. You got up and down at the ankle, right to left, rocker, and of course, toe articulation. Now, before we go, let's take a look at the lower body. Once again, you got that really fine texture that they have on the skin, which gives them a little bit of grain and feel to it, which is really low key because you don't really notice it until you actually have the figure in hand. Now, he does have his little, bootsies that he wears, even in the old versions. But McFarlane did add some texture to the boots. Now, he did not add any texture to the gloves. These are smooth, but all in all, very reminiscent of the comic version. Take a look at them from the bottom. No tread and no identifying marks. Moving up the back, got that same nice skin texture to the back of the trunks and the back. And lifting up the cape, you actually see that he has a sort of effect that they tried to go with here where it is painted in a dark color and then they added some speckles of white, which is to represent like the void that is under the cape of the Spectre. But all in all, it is a pretty pliable cape and it's nice and soft, and it does have some sculpted motion in it to where you could feel it's like, moving in the wind, or just gives it that added little bit of motion. Pretty nice. Now, he is a really fun figure. He does represent really well what is in the comics, so I'm happy with that. One of the main things I was not happy with was that we did not get any alternate hands. Now, you know me, I went into my hand fodder and I was actually able to make him an alternate hand. So, although I do enjoy the fist, I wish they would have just given him two fists and instead they gave him that gripping hand on the right hand. But I did end up making him a sort of gesturing hand on his left hand. Now, this is actually made from two different hands. I cut off a piece to give him a cuff from one other hand, and then I put on the other gesturing hand and then painted it to match the green. Now, it actually came out really nice. I'm really happy with it. And it just gives him a little bit more of that, classic Spectre feel where he's actually a sort of haunting figure and has a little bit more emotion in the hands than just, classic two-fisted figures that they usually give us. So I am really happy with the little custom hand I gave him. Just gives him a little bit more animated life to him, and you can put him in more different poses. You have more options. Of course, you do know I own all of the DC Universe classics, and although I think DC Direct did some Spectre figures, but they're not the most articulated, but DC Classics did its own version. Now, if I had to say anything, I would say that some things surprised me, like although this is a really nice Spectre figure, the articulation is outdated. They did actually give him two open gesturing hands, which really works with the Spectre figure. And while looking at the DC Universe Classics version, I did see like some details, like he had clasps on his cloak. And I was for sure that McFarlane would like skip this because, it's just those things that he does. But surprisingly, McFarlane actually did add the little clasps on the cloak, and I was really surprised and happy at the same time. So that's pretty cool. Now, we did have two different versions from DC Classics. You also had this glow in the dark version, which actually does glow in the dark still, and it has some pretty interesting sort of opaque plastic they molded him in. So that's a version McFarlane could have went with for the platinum version of this Spectre, but no, he went with a, obscure mix of Hal Jordan and the Spectre. Now, these were actually sent to some people by mistake, but in the future, McFarlane says they will be having that EQL or, whatever it's called, raffle to win a chance to actually pick up one of those platinums. Now, just for scale, I wanted to actually bring in another member of the Justice Society of America. Now, actually, this is my, custom version made from the platinum, from the collector's edition wave, where I actually went all out and made him a full Hawkman. And we do have other members of the society like Jay Garrick, but hopefully soon we'll be able to fill it out completely. But anyways, guys, that's taking a look at the Spectre from the Crisis on Infinite Earths wave. I'm actually pretty happy with him. Aside from not having any alternate hands with him, it is a really classic representation of the Spectre. But anyways, you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.